All right, today we're jumping into the risky business of modern relationships. We're talking about what happens when you need to know the truth and trust just isn't cutting it. I mean, really think about that for a second. We all have these perfectly curated online lives, right? But what are we hiding just outside the picture frame? It's that space between what we see and what's real that kicks off almost every single domestic investigation. And this is why that question is so important. 44%. That's the percentage of unmarried committed relationships that will have to deal with infidelity. That number is just staggering. It tells you this isn't some rare, out-of-the-blue problem. It's a risk a lot of us are facing. Okay, so let's zoom in on a place where all these risks are kind of supercharged. Northern Nevada, the Reno-Sparks area. It's not just a little Vegas. Its unique mix of people and social dynamics creates this perfect storm, making it a really fascinating and sometimes pretty dangerous place to start a relationship. The environment itself actually cranks up the risk. Just look at this chart. In Reno, property crime is 31% higher than the national average, and violent crime, it's a shocking 55% higher. Now, this isn't just about your car getting broken into. It means the odds of you meeting someone with a hidden criminal past in your social circle on a date are way, way higher here. And this gets to a huge part of the problem. Nevada is one of the most transient states in the whole country. Only about 25% of the people who live there were actually born there. This creates what PIs call the Clean Slate Phenomenon. People move there for a fresh start, which sounds great, right? But sometimes that fresh start means running away from a whole history of bankruptcies, restraining orders, or maybe even another family they left behind in another state. So, with all that risk floating around, we really need to understand what infidelity even looks like today. Who's cheating, and why are they doing it? The latest data paints a surprisingly clear picture, and honestly, some of it is probably going to challenge what you think you know.
Now this is where it gets really interesting because the whole dynamic changes over a person's lifetime. In their 20s, women are actually a little more likely to cheat. A lot of that is driven by what experts call micro-cheating, secret DMs, emotional connections on apps. But watch what happens as people get older. The gap just gets wider and wider, and by the time they're in their 70s, men are twice as likely to have an affair. It's a total flip.
And it's not just that it happens, but how it happens that really matters. And there's a huge gender divide here. An overwhelming 83% of women say they'd be more hurt by an emotional affair. The secret texts, the late night calls, that connection. Meanwhile, 60% of men are more hurt by the physical, sexual act of cheating. And for an investigator, that difference is everything, because you can't prove an emotional affair by staking out some hotel. So, you've got that gut feeling. Something's not right. This is where the private investigator comes in. But their job is nothing like what you see in the movies. They have to navigate this really complex legal world, especially in a place like Nevada. Knowing the rules isn't just important, it's the whole ballgame. One wrong move, and all their evidence is totally worthless. Okay, let me give you a perfect example. A lot of people think that because Nevada is a no-fault divorce state, proving an affair doesn't really matter financially. That is a massive misconception. The key legal idea here is something called community waste. It's when one spouse uses marital money from joint accounts, on credit cards, to fund their affair. We're talking dinners, gifts, hotels, you name it. And this really hits the nail on the head. A credit card receipt for a hotel? By itself, it's just a piece of paper. But when a private investigator gets video of that spouse walking into that very hotel with their affair partner at that exact time, suddenly that piece of paper becomes powerful, undeniable proof. A judge can then look at that and award the innocent spouse more of the assets to make up for all that wasted money. But here's the thing. Getting that proof is like walking through a legal minefield. A PI can absolutely film someone in a public space. But slapping a GPS tracker on a car without the owner's permission, that's now a misdemeanor in Nevada. And secretly recording audio or video in a private place, like a bedroom, that's not just thrown out of court, it's a felony. This is exactly why you have to hire a licensed professional who knows what they're doing.
We think of PIs as just catching people in the act, right? But honestly, their most valuable work is often preventative. It's about figuring out the risks before you've tied your entire life and your bank account to someone who's hiding a pretty dark past. And listen, a professional background check, it is so much more than those cheap $5 searches you find online. No way. A pro is going to dig deep into county-level criminal records, check for civil lawsuits, restraining orders, verify every past marriage and divorce, and even make sure the businesses and assets they say they own are actually real. It's all about verifying, not just trusting. And the stakes for not doing your homework, well, they're incredibly high. You might want to sit down for this. According to a recent privacy analysis, Nevada is ranked as the single most dangerous state for online dating in the entire country. It's this perfect storm of high fraud rates, rampant identity theft, and violent crime.
So, how do you protect yourself? You have got to know the warning signs. These are the classic red flags of a romance scammer. They almost always claim to be working overseas, maybe on an oil rig or in the military. They'll have a million excuses why they can't video chat. And this is the big one, there's always some sudden, dramatic crisis that needs you to send money fast, using a wire transfer, gift cards, or crypto.
Okay, so let's pull all of this together. We live in an age of digital masks and financial fog, and because of that, the role of the private investigator is more essential than it has ever been. They're the specialists you turn to when your gut feeling just isn't enough. When you strip everything else away, it really just comes down to this one simple thing. Whether you're trying to confirm a gut-wrenching suspicion, avoid a devastating scam, or just get a fair deal in a divorce, the PI delivers something that is absolutely priceless in our world today: clarity. They give you the unvarnished truth. And that leaves us with one last question, and this one's for you to think about. In a world where it's this easy to fake it and where the risks are this high, how do you balance faith with facts? How do you, in your own life, really verify trust?